All right, everyone. Today's big story, of course, is Trump is once again going after like the FBI, like the McCabe or again McCabe or whatever the fuck his name is, Mueller, the investigation, saying it's been tainted. Basically, Fox came out and has basically openly declared at this point it's been tainted. I would have to agree with him, but it actually goes further than he's stating. He's focusing on Fusion GPS because that's the one. Of all of the scandals, Fusion GPS is the one that sort of took off. Now, I think months ago I said when the Pissgate dossier thing was going on, like during the election itself, I think I said that was the big one to look for. And then it sort of disappeared, and I was slightly upset because, like, come on, can't you put two and two together? And then people at the time were still fixated on other lesser things. Now, of course, Fusion GPS is the one that everyone's talking about. But here's the thing. The Russian stuff. Trump is saying basically Fusion GPS is the origin story of the more Russia bullshit. Which, at this point, at some point the Democrats have got to let the issue go. Or it's going to bite them in the ass. I don't think they actually believe this tripe. And that's exactly what it is. It's nonsense. It always was. But here's the real origin story, and this is why we know that it's bullcrap, at least mostly. And of course, Flynn, this has nothing to do with Trump, the Flynn story. Manafort, his indictment, that came for stuff that happened years ago. Had even met Trump at that point. We're not even necessarily 100% sure. He was off with Tony Podesta, a Democrat at the time, running the Podesta group with his brother, Clinton's campaign chair. So that has nothing to do with Donald Trump. That almost implicates the Clinton campaign more, which ties into Uranium One, I believe. And I think Sessions is looking into that currently. The real origin story, though, is that the DNC had a leaker. They had Seth Rich, or whoever it happens to be. Somebody leaked a bunch of DNC materials to basically WikiLeaks. And the DNC wanted to cover that up because it didn't want people to look at the content of that material. So it said, oh, the Russians did it. Big, big, scary Vladimir Putin, 10 scoops of ice cream himself. He's the one responsible. Whoa, he's trying to influence the election. Now they set the groundwork. And here's the funny thing. You'll remember that all these same people said that Russia couldn't really influence the election when they thought that Clinton was going to win. They got caught with their pants down twice, then they had to stick with the story. So they had to try to flip it around. So now instead of saying, well, no, other countries, they can't do anything about the election, there can't be any meddling, no funny business, it's impossible, our election's 100% ironclad, no fraud, no problems at all, certainly no, rigging. All of a sudden, they say, oh, no, everything was rigged, everything's fraudulent, everything's horrible. Now, to an unmedicated individual, it looks like they completely did a 180. But they are hoping that you won't realize this, so they want you to not realize that a leaker was responsible for the DNC leaks. They want it to fit the profile of an uber-scary Russian hack. Now, let alone that their password was apparently Obama08, or at least that was the report at the time. And if that's true, it's still mind-blowing even a year later. It's really mind-blowing how dumb they could be. Then Podesta's material gets out there, and it probably all ties into Clinton's lack of email protection. Because, of course, we've seen some of the content there, too. It's so nuts. It's just so dirty and so unethical. And then we find out that they were using straw men, allegedly, to funnel millions of dollars into the Clinton campaign through state DNC chairs. So anyone can see, while everyone's fixated on hoping that Mueller is going to find dirt on Trump, and we find out that the only significant stories that we've had so far are, Michael Flynn had inappropriate contact with some Russians, not to any felonious even degree. And Manafort, he was laundering money, but that was, a decade ago, and it was involved with the Podesta group. They've been doing a thorough and supposedly fair investigation into Trump for a year now. Although, personally, I think that that's not even really Mueller's target. He's looking at all these other people because I think honestly, they have discovered a criminal activity going on, something that's more interlocked, like a web of criminals laundering money, and it probably mostly ties into Manafort and Podesta, which means it probably takes out some Democrats too. At this point, though, I think he's already reasonably assured that he's not going to get anything on Trump. especially when it turns out that FBI agents, according again to leaked materials, are constantly texting each other about how Trump is evil. Trump insurance file says, basically, Mueller's number 2 or number 3. That's a problem. Because, they can't really indict Trump if it looks like every fan that he has, which is tens of millions of people still politically active within the country, would raise unholy havoc. Because they would say, well, it's basically a coup. Look, we can prove the FBI is biased. And McCabe or whatever's biased. Mueller's biased too. It's the establishment. We've got to defend the president. It would be insane. Like they actually have the balls to indict him even if they found something at this point. And I don't think that there's anything to find. But it goes past Fusion GPS. That's certainly the most interesting part of the story. The Pissgate dossier was so off the wall. The concept that Trump is so one-dimensional that he's hiring Russian prostitutes to urinate in the Obama's hotel bed is so out there. If any other individual within politics had a claim similar to this made about them, nobody would believe it. But because it was Donald Trump, there were enough people took it seriously. They got enough rope to hang themselves when you think about it. Because now it turns out we can prove that it's not real, and oops, they submitted this stuff knowing that it wasn't real, as though it was, basically to spur an investigation to try to get surveillance on an active presidential campaign. It looks like an attempt was made to false flag Trump in order to justify such an investigation, probably to try to take him out before he was able to win. And then when they realized there wasn't any dirt there, and I think another thing is they may have found out about Manafort's bullshit early on, and then they realized that it actually didn't involve Trump, but it did involve a bunch of Democrats, including probably people associated with the heads of the FBI, and they're like, whoops, yeah, we uncovered too much, and now we have no choice but to document it, otherwise, we could end up in Gitmo. We're going to have to quiet down a little bit and really, really hope that we can find some dirt, anything to nail Trump on this, and now they're just desperately digging. So the DNC wanted to save its own ass, and sort of did because its fans were dumb enough not to look into the content of the WikiLeaks releases. They actually thought Russia was involved. It was the funniest thing ever. The FBI apparently, at some level, was trying to cover its ass. Mueller is trying to cover his ass. Clinton was trying to cover hers, certainly Podesta. And then you've got Manafort. Basically, I guess, a rhino, an old Reaganite neocon that was working with Podesta at the time, of all people, to embezzle and launder a bunch of money. That implicates, indeed, a fairly high-ranking Democratic donor, who happens to be the brother of Clinton's campaign chair himself. Think about the ramifications. You've got someone who is one step from Clinton, has her on speed dial, and his brother is laundering money with someone who's the target of an investigation into a totally different presidential campaign running at the same time. Doesn't that seem slightly fishy to you? That all of these, I would say, in general, its politics is corrupt. There are a lot of corrupt people around in D.C., and they all tend to be entangled together, doing the same things. There are only so many kinds of corruption that are going to bring them the kind of money and power that they want. Money laundering, slush funds, certainly human trafficking, drug dealing, the normal fare, starting a proxy war. So this is what they get involved in. Don't you think that they reach across the aisle to work on these things? Hey, basically, yeah, we'll make so much money. They don't care if it's a Democrat or Republican helping them do that. If they can complement one another enough to be able to pull such a heist off and defraud the American people, they really don't care who they're working with per se. I mean, if they're willing to work with some cannibalistic warlord over in Eastern Africa who traffics in human labor and sells slaves to the Middle East for like oil barons to buy, if that's what they're involved with, do you think that they care whether a person has a D or an R after their name or isn't even in politics actively at the time? Manafort didn't care if it was Tony Podesta. Tony Podesta didn't care if it was Reagan's former campaign advisor. They don't care. They're making money. Lots and lots of it. They even get to destroy entire countries. But yeah, you're not going to find anything on Trump. That's my main prediction. Number two, though, it would be nice if you would come out and you need to point out to people, Trump should, and his fans should, that it goes beyond Fusion GPS. It's just one component of the cover-up after the DNC began trying to cover its ass because it had leaky security. The DNC is probably the progenitor of all this. Then they decided to take advantage of their own cover-up, which was already ongoing. And when they lost the election, they decided to pull all of these other things together, try to make it look like Trump was an agent of the Russians, when indeed it's entirely possible that the Democrats are the ones predominantly attempting to do so. That's honestly what appears to have gone on. And they had allies, whether knowingly or unknowingly, within the FBI apparently attempting to help them. Because they have a stick up their ass about Trump. You know, they're normal people. The fact that they worked for a bureau doesn't mean that they don't have bias. Mueller assures us, oh, I know, well, people have their own personal opinions, in other words, bias. But don't worry, they can do their job in an unbiased manner. Oh, yeah, that's funny. We don't allow a private business to operate that way. Oh, yeah, this person says bigoted things on Facebook, but we're gonna keep them on at this job, and nobody should worry about it because they can still do their job without allowing their insane level of bigotry to affect them. They can still work with black customers. They're totally not going to insult them behind their back. It's not going to be a stain on our company. At the FBI, apparently, according to the Democratic Party, that's not a problem. Only in private business. But this is government. Government's like a sacred cow to them anyway. It's always perfect, unless it's Trump, oddly enough. Or Lindsey Graham. They tried to play nice with him, get him aboard, because he likes to powder his face enough for their tastes. But then he went back over with Trump. He wanted to play with the big boys, I guess. That's about all. Peace out.